If you're still working but are currently considering collecting Social Security, then you'll want to watch this video as I'm going to share 4 mistakes that you could potentially be making if you begin collecting Social Security while you're working and how to avoid those costly mistakes. Welcome back. This is episode 254. This week, I'm going to be discussing collecting Social Security while working and 4 mistakes that you'll want to avoid if you're considering collecting your Social Security benefit while you continue working. And I'm going to use a real-life example of one of my clients who's going through this very thing right now. But before I get into that, I just want to remind everyone that my online retirement planning course, Retirement Readiness on Demand, is live and available on my Retire with Ryan website. If you have a plan for retirement that is out of date, or if you don't have a plan for retirement and you want to get one, then consider signing up for my on-demand course. I take you through step-by-step how to create your own plan for retirement, how to minimize taxes before and after retirement, discuss Social Security in depth, discuss Medicare, estate planning, and much more. You can sign up by heading over to retirewithryan.com and clicking on On-Demand, and you can go through the course at your own pace. So, as you probably know, if you've been a listener on my channel, if you know some things about Social Security, once you reach age 62, you become eligible to collect your Social Security benefit. Granted, if you don't collect at 62 and you wait until your full retirement, your benefit is going to be a greater value, greater money. But however, you could collect anywhere between 62 and your full retirement. But this reduction is permanent anytime you collect your benefit before full retirement. You can also wait between your full retirement age and 70 to collect your benefit. And if you do wait, your benefit will increase 8% for each year that you wait to collect benefits. Obviously, you want to consider these factors when deciding to collect your benefit, as collecting your benefit before full retirement or early could significantly reduce what you will receive in Social Security benefits over your lifetime. However, there are 4 factors that you need to consider in addition to what we discussed earlier as far as what you're actually going to receive from Social Security. So these 4 factors are important because these are mistakes that you could potentially be making by collecting your benefit and continuing to work. So mistake number 1 is earning too much or earning above the Social Security earnings limit. If you collect your Social Security benefit while you're still working, you need to be aware that there's a limit to how much you can earn. The good news is that if you've reached your Social Security full retirement age, which is based on the year you were born, there's no limit to how much you can earn while collecting your Social Security benefits. For example, if your Social Security full retirement age is 66 and 8 months, then beginning with the month you reach that age, you can collect your full Social Security benefit and earn as much money as you like. So there's no worry. However, if you collect your benefits before then, you need to worry about 2 dates. The first being from age 62 until the year that you reach your full retirement. You're limited to earn $23,400 a year. So if you earn over that, then your benefits will be reduced by $1 for every $2 over that. This number does increase slightly each year for inflation, but it is a small increase. The second date you need to be aware of is that beginning in the year that you reach full retirement, you're limited to earning up to $62,160 up until the month you reach full retirement. If you earn over that amount, then your benefit is reduced $1 for every $3 that you earn over that. And this number also increases slightly for inflation each year. However, as I said, only the income you earn up until the month you reach your full retirement is counted. For example, let's say your full retirement age will be reached in July. You could then earn up to $62,160 this year from January until June and be under the earnings limit. So if you turn or reach your full retirement age later in the year, this can be more of a problem because you then have less money that you can earn per month because it is a limit based up until the month you reach your full retirement. So as I mentioned, one of my clients is going through this same situation. Let's just call her Kathy. Kathy is a teacher in Connecticut and earns $75,000 per year. Her birthday is in October, and her full retirement age is 66 and 8 months. And she just turned 66 this past October, which means that she will reach her full retirement age of June of this year, so next month. She could collect her full Social Security benefit at that time, in June, without worrying about the earnings limit because she will have reached her Social Security full retirement age. She will receive about $1,800 per month from Social Security of her full retirement benefit. Now, Kathy's married, and she's also eligible for a spousal benefit off of her spouse's benefit, which would be half of her spouse's full retirement benefit. However, because she had another job before getting into teaching, her own benefit will be slightly more than her spousal benefit. So most likely she's just going to collect her own benefit. Teachers in Connecticut and many other states are exempt from paying into Social Security, so therefore many teachers have very little Social Security benefit of their own. They often have to rely on a spousal benefit to get a significant spousal benefit. And the good thing about that is, I've talked about in past episodes, the Social Security Fairness Act was passed earlier this year. That changed the survivor benefits and spousal benefits that teachers could get. So teachers are now eligible for a lot more from Social Security, which is a good thing. So because this year, Kathy will reach her full retirement age, her earnings limit for the first 5 months, so again, it's from January until May, is $62,120, which per month is $12,424 for her, because it's just 5 months that she's limited to earning that. So she earns about $62.50 a month. So she could have actually started her benefits as early as January. However, that brings us to the next big mistake that you need to be aware of or consider if you're going to be collecting your benefit while working. So mistake number 2 is accidentally eliminating your ability to make HSA contributions. So when you collect Social Security past age 65, you are automatically enrolled in Medicare Part A. That is not a choice. That is mandatory. If you're still working past 65 and you or your spouse are covered under a health plan that covers 20 or more employees, then you are exempt from enrolling in Medicare. For many people still working and under a high deductible health plan, they don't want to enroll in Medicare Part A while they're working. The reason they don't want to enroll in Medicare Part A is because once you do, you can no longer contribute to a health savings account. This goes for your employer contributions too. So you would lose any employer contribution that you might be receiving into your health savings account. Now, Part A enrollment is also backdated 6 months, meaning you will also be penalized for any contributions made 6 months prior to enrolling in Medicare Part A. So ideally, you would need to stop any employee or employer contributions into your health savings account 6 months prior to enrolling in Medicare Part A or collecting Social Security. So to correct these excess contributions, these contributions that you shouldn't have made in 6 months prior, you can request the excess funds from your HSA from the company holding your HSA account, otherwise known as the custodian. So they can withdraw the money and send it back to you without a penalty. So if it's Fidelity, if it's whoever, you'd reach out to them and let them know that you made an excess contribution. There's usually a form you fill out, and then they can send that money back to you. If you don't remove these excess contributions, and you have filed your taxes before removing the excess contributions, then you will most likely be subject to a 6% excise penalty on these excess contributions until they are removed. So it's really important that you remove these contributions. So even though you could collect your Social Security benefit at full retirement without any reduction if you're still working, it could eliminate your ability to contribute to your health savings account, which you may not want to do. Maybe you don't even know that. So that means that you can't make any further contributions to your HSA account once you enroll in Medicare Part A or collect Social Security. And you also lose this tax deduction that maybe you really want. And you also lose any contributions that your employer is making as well. However, it doesn't mean you lose your health savings account. It's still your money. You keep it for life. to use later how you see fit. But if you do enroll in Medicare Part A and you're covered under a health savings account that your employer contributes to, you'll want to notify them so they no longer contribute to the account. Preferably 6 months prior to enrolling in Social Security or Medicare Part A. And there's usually a form that you can complete with your employer, with your health savings account provider to get them to stop contributing into the account. So back to my example, my client Kathy. So her employer contributes $1,500 a year to her health savings account, and she's been maximizing what she's been putting into that. So if she begins collecting Social Security next month, she'll have to give up the $1,500 that she was getting from her employer, as well as not be able to contribute any money from next month going back 6 months. So she'd need to remove any excess contributions that she has made, and assuming that she's been contributing the maximum monthly, she'll need to withdraw that money, or it'll be subject to that 6% excise penalty. However, Kathy's husband waited until 70 to begin collecting his own Social Security benefit, and he's 5 years older than her. So if she outlives her husband, she will receive the maximum Social Security survivor benefit. So her decision to collect Social Security benefits should really be based on what's best for her and how her and her husband can get the most amount of money from Social Security. And as I mentioned, she could receive $1,800 per month if she collects in June. So a strategy for her could be to apply for her benefits beginning in June, therefore making her Medicare Part A effective on July 1st. And Medicare Part A becomes effective the first day of the month following your enrollment. And that, I believe that's the same for Social Security. When you apply for Social Security, you get your first check the following month, and Medicare Part A is also effective the following month. So if Kathy removed all of her HSA contributions from January 1st to the end of June, both contributions she made and any employer contributions, she wouldn't have to worry about that 6% excise tax on that money. Now, Kathy could also delay her enrollment in Social Security longer and be able to make a prorated contribution to her HSA account. So each month that you are eligible for your health savings account, you take the annual contribution limit for you and then divide it by 12 to determine how much you can contribute. So for Kathy, the HSA contribution limit for her for 2025 is $8,550 because she and her spouse are covered by her health plan, and she's also eligible for an additional $1,000 catch-up contribution. So her total contribution limit for 2025 is $9,550. So monthly that breaks down to $795.83. So $795.83 per month. So if she wanted to start collecting Social Security beginning January 1st of next year, she could contribute 6 months of HSA contributions for 2025, so half of the $9,550 or $4,775. So that is definitely an option for her as well. She could decide any month to contribute, or to enroll, I should say, in Medicare, but in Social Security, but she needs to make sure that she did the right proration calculation and then removed or stopped any excess contribution. So that brings us to mistake number 3 if you're going to collect Social Security while working, and that is accidentally enrolling in Medicare Part B. If you're going to continue to work and collect Social Security past 65 and you want to continue your employer's health plan, that isn't a problem if your employer has 20 or more employees. If that is the case, then your medical insurance will continue to be your primary insurance. You won't want to enroll in Medicare Part B for a few reasons. Number 1, Medicare Part B is not free. And the standard Part B premium this year is $185 per month, and that's per person. It can be even more if your income is higher. So you don't want to pay for something that you don't need. Number 2, even if you think enrolling in Medicare Part B is a good idea because it will give you coverage on top of your company medical insurance, unfortunately, you're wrong. Your employer coverage will always be your primary insurance if you have it, and Medicare Part B won't pay for anything. So Medicare won't become your primary insurance until you are no longer covered by an employer health plan that covers 20 or more employees. So you'd be paying for something that you can't even use. Once you enroll in Social Security, you usually receive a letter in the mail asking you if you want to enroll in Medicare Part B. If you don't want to enroll, simply complete the letter and send it back to Social Security that you don't want to enroll. The third thing is that you'll also be triggering your 6-month initial enrollment period when you sign up for Medicare Part B, which is the time that you can elect a Medigap plan without any underwriting for pre-existing conditions. After that 6-month period is over, you can be prevented from enrolling in a Medigap plan due to pre-existing conditions. So this means that if you have certain health issues and you want to go into a Medigap plan, you'd want to go in during that 6-month initial enrollment period so that you don't lose your ability to go into that, because later on you could be denied from going into a Medigap plan. So for Kathy and her husband, they were concerned that they won't be able to remain on their employer health plan if she begins collecting Social Security and then goes on Medicare Part A. However, this shouldn't be a concern, as they will be able to remain on the health plan, but they will no longer be able to contribute to her health savings account. Enrolling in Medicare Part A doesn't terminate your employer health plan. So finally, mistake number 4, and that's not withholding enough taxes on your Social Security payment. Social Security is taxable income for most people, especially if you're working and collecting Social Security, which means that you will owe income tax on that money. You can pay any owed taxes on your Social Security when you file your taxes, but that could subject you to tax penalties. It's better to speak with your accountant or your financial advisor if they're familiar with taxes, such as my firm is, to determine the taxes that you will likely owe on your Social Security income. You can then choose to have federal taxes withheld with each payment you receive from Social Security. And you can do this by completing Form W-4V, otherwise known as the Voluntary Withholding Request Form. And you can choose from 4 withholding percentages on this form: 7%, 10%, 12%, or 22%. And then you fill out this form and then you send it into Social Security, and they will then start withholding federal income tax from your Social Security payment. Another option is that you could also just pay quarterly estimated taxes, or you could increase your withholding on other income for this additional tax you might owe on your Social Security income. So if you're still working, you could increase your withholding on your paychecks. If you're getting a pension payment, you could increase your withholding on that. So there's a number of ways that you could take care of these taxes that you might owe. The point is to figure it out before the fact rather than after, so that number 1, you don't owe a lot of taxes that you're surprised about, and then number 2, you don't owe a tax penalty on that. So if Kathy does begin collecting Social Security this year, then we will review her and her husband's projected income for this year to determine the proper amount of tax withholding. Ideally, I'd like them to owe less than $1,000 in state or federal income tax so that they're not subject to any penalties. We will then come up with a strategy on where to withhold this income tax. One tricky thing is that Social Security does not allow you to withhold state income tax. So if you will owe any state income tax on this money, you will need to have it withheld from another income source or submit quarterly estimated taxes to the state. So lastly, I hope you found this helpful on these potential mistakes you could be making if you decide to collect Social Security benefits while working. And as always, if you have a listener question that you want to have considered for a future episode, I'll be happy to consider that question. You can head over to retirewithryan.com and click on Ask a Question to leave your question. Have a great week, and I look forward to speaking with you next Tuesday. Take care.